one else wants to be accountable for it. So, yes.
As Louise always says, when they ask for volunteers, everybody stepped back and you didn't notice and you were left standing in the front.
I became the founder of the IBO because everyone else ran away. Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I had the Rolodex.
Okay.
So that's how it
Dewald.
started. Yeah.
Let's start.
Let's start.
We've basically started already.
All right.
Cort Brazelton, who's the CEO of Fall Creek and also the founder of the IBO. Welcome to our podcast, and thanks for coming to join us.
Thank
We
you for inviting
really
me.
appreciate it.
All right.
And to fall into the house, your intro on stage was really good. The part where you spoke about that really caught my attention was that the thing you spoke about, the different category within the blueberry category, that is so profitable, if I may say so. You can obviously correct me if I'm wrong. And you guys are in variety breeding.
For a couple decades. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
A couple generations. Yeah.
So I think give us a brief for the few people that don't know you, that brief overhead of who you are and who Fall Creek is, and then I would love to dive into that segment.
Sure. Yeah. So Fall Creek and my family has been in blueberries for almost 50 years, and we began doing blueberries long before it was a good idea. In fact, I grew up in. I'm from the family that also owns the company. It's a family-owned company, and my childhood was growing up in a business that looked like maybe it wasn't a very good idea. In fact, the only advertising for blueberries or any public awareness of blueberries at any level in the United States in the 80s and early 90s when I was growing up was a denture cleaner commercial. Where if one was to use this marvelous denture cleaner, one could enjoy blueberry pie on occasion and it would not permanently stain your dentures. And that was the extent of our publicity and public awareness as a food product and as a crop. So we've come a little ways from, being a reason for denture cleaners to exist. My parents founded the company in the late 1970s in the state of Oregon. It's a state on the west coast of the United States that we don't want to promote too much, so we don't have too many people moving there because it's wonderful. And for the first 30 years of the company, we were heavily focused on nursery. So we're in the nursery business. We were actually the first company to introduce tissue culture in the crop or containerized plant supply and that sort of a thing. My father was always a real pioneer and innovator. He's a scientist in my training. And after 30 years in the business, there were other partners. And there wasn't succession. And my sister and my brother-in-law and I got a call in 2008 from our parents. We were off doing other things in the world. And they said, well, are you guys interested? Because none of the other kids are. Would you like to come back and check it out? So we came back, and what we found was the business that we had grown up in, that we had a good mind to escape, which we'd done. We'd escaped reasonably well for a period of time, ultimately failed. But we came back, and I had some time in produce and agriculture and horticulture, actually, in a separate career path. And I said, it's a great business. And we have a very established now, very developed genetics program. We have all these wonderful breeding partners around the world that we work with. Why are we only doing this here when this is going to be happening everywhere and everyone's going to be consuming blueberries? My father had, I'm going back in time now, my father had been always a volunteer for the industry. I grew up always attending the industry meetings in the U.S. industry and then elsewhere in the world. And he pushed to launch blueberry health research in the 90s and actually led the Blueberry Health Research Committee for a series of decades. And that health message that came out around the antioxidant craze in the 90s was what actually first put blueberries on the map that resulted in the awareness. Now, something being healthy alone does not get over the line. Otherwise, we'd be sitting here chewing on kale and broccoli right now, right?
Exactly.
So, there's nothing wrong with kale and broccoli. I just don't think it's quite as delightful as a blueberry.
As they always say, there's no good stories ever started with a salad.
Unless there's blueberries in it, right? So
Indeed.
So the health message built this awareness first in North America and then UK and Australia and random places like Iceland. And the availability started scaling. And then the concept that perhaps the blueberries might be good became an idea. And my father had been pioneering throughout the history of the company new genetics from lots of breeding programs that we continue to collaborate with today. and as well as developing our own and figuring out how to grow these things in more places. There's a famous folk character in American history called Johnny Appleseed,
I think
a
I've heard the
mystical
name.
person who planted apples throughout the Americas, and he often gets called the Johnny Appleseed of blueberries. And so
Okay.
I had the privilege, and my sister, of growing up with our dad, going to South Africa in the 90s and figuring out how to grow blueberries here or in Spain or Argentina. When I came back to the company, my dad handed me a pile of telex communications, if you remember the telex, the
Yes, it's
prefect, when fax was
a
high
while
tech
ago,
and telex
yes.
was a cheap tool, of some of the first plant shipments we made to Chile in the early 1980s. And those people on those lists are some of the great pioneers of our industry. So we had the privilege of kind of growing up with it. In 2008, we came back and it was a local company and doing most of its nursery and genetics business on the West Coast with a small international licensing component to it. And we had the option, the whole family was going to come into it. We said we want to be a more professional company. Let's not be a family business. Let's be a professional family-owned company. And option one is do more things where we are. And option two is do what we know how to do in more places. And we said, oh, that'll be easy. It turned out to be actually harder than we thought. But having spent a fair bit of time abroad, exposed to this industry and others, I think we made some good calls. Went to Mexico and then Peru, and now and then over to Europe, and now operate in soon 10 countries around the world, and serve. Last year served customers in 117 countries, I believe.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride, and we exist to build a world with better blueberries through exceptional plants, relationships, innovation, and our customers' success. Our values are humility, integrity, passion, and excellence. And we are all about making a world with better blueberries. I refuse to acknowledge we have competitors because all our competitors are friends and they're all aiming at the same thing. So there is no such thing as competition in blueberries. Our competition is the junk food and is
Yes.
the change in human habits. We have an opportunity to grow this pie in ways that are so spectacular. We are all in this boat together, and that is why I love this organization and the industry organizations, because we can come together and actually work in a common interest.
Wow. So I've got a
Other
question.
than that, I'm totally depressed and have no faith in the future. But yeah,
I've got a question I normally ask people in South Africa. We call our barbecues a braai. I don't know if you ever.
I had a braai on Tuesday night. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I've got a question. So when you get to a barbecue, a braai, an event, and you know nobody there, nobody knows you, and the first person comes up to you and says, "Well, Cort, what do you do?"
Very American question, by the way.
So what is that? What is that short, sweet answer you tell the person that's got no idea of what it is that you do?
I tell them I'm a farmer.
Just that. Fantastic.
And then they say, you're a farmer? You don't look like a farmer. I'm like, well, I used to. I haven't driven a tractor or a spray rig for a while. And they say, what do you do? I'm like, all right, okay. Do you like blueberries? Oh, yeah, I like blueberries. Do you ever buy blueberries and say those are really good? Or those were better than before? We, together with other people in the industry, do that. That's our job. And then,
Fantastic.
have you ever felt like maybe you got a decent deal on them and hopefully it made money for a farmer? That's what we do.
Wonderful. And Dewald asked this. He asked kind of the same question in a different way to what I wanted to ask, and that is, or observation really, that you grew up with this, with the example of your father and with the people. It was just everyday commonplace to you and your siblings because that's what your dad and your family did.
Well, we tried to escape, like I said.
And you tried to escape, and yet it pulled you back. And all that stuff that you learned as a youngster and was just in your everyday, drew you back. And actually you had all that information and you could take it forward. You could take it forward globally, as you have.
Well, we got some other skills outside as
Yes,
well that were
indeed.
helpful. Learning a
So
couple
what?
languages.
So what was
and-
that you went to do out of the family business?
Well, I became a history lecturer, so I'm a historian, and then
Okay.
became an economist, and actually worked in the industry a bit, a little bit elsewhere on the fruit side, which at the time actually made money. Growing up, our business did not make very much money, and I wanted to. For me, it was growing up digging ditches and working on planting lines. I'm like, I'm not sure I want to do this. The history thing looked good because those guys were really smart, had a lot of leather-bound books and
Yes.
sport coats with elbow patches, and
Love it.
and they lived in cities, which was very different from the middle of nowhere where I grew up. And I'm like, that is different. That
Sports coats with elbow patches. I love it.
yes, You know you've arrived when you're wearing a tweed coat with an elbow patch. You are now distinguished. You could use long
Yes.
words.
Love it.
Yeah. So there was a copy of the Iliad and the Odyssey, and growing up, and I studied classical history.
Yes.
And actually, I've studied some other things too. One of the most useful degrees in this industry is history and philosophy, as well as economics. And the best, Miles Ryder, one of the heroes of my career, was the member of the Ryder family, the longtime CEO of Driscoll's, and from the Ryders who own the majority of Driscoll's. Miles is a history major.
Okay.
And Miles said to me a few times, he said, some of the best growers are students of the liberal arts. One, because they learn to be critical thinkers and learners, and two, because they wake up every day terrified that they have no idea what they're doing. And so they pay a lot of attention to what they're doing. And it is true sometimes.
Wow.
That said,
nobody's ever explained it like that. But now that
you
you
put
say
it
it,
that
it makes
way.
100% sense.
well, you learn to learn, right? You learn
Yes.
to learn. So, there's people who think I'm a
And
scientist. I'm a fake
open,
scientist.
and to be open to things.
Extremely open. And to change your mind.
I always believe no knowledge or learning is ever lost, because you might pivot in a different direction, but the way the ways in which you learned to learn and to acquire knowledge go with you, and you'll be doing something like this, and suddenly knowledge that you acquired from there is relevant here. Yeah. So it for sure. Yeah.
So we're in danger of a tangent going far away from blueberries, but
we are indeed.
I have strong opinions about education, not just its importance, but the value of a diverse base of education that doesn't abandon the arts and liberal arts,
Yes.
and the capacity for a background in some form of liberal arts to empower critical thinking, which is at the speed at which the economy moves, becoming an expert in one thing runs the risk of becoming obsolete at some point. You run the risk of losing relevance, and developing critical thinking skills. That's one of the things that, remember, AI regurgitates and reformulates, right? Developing critical thinking skills and capacity for reflection and human, cultural, anthropological acumen is something that is unique to our species and we should never lose.
For sure. And if you become simply functional, you're just performing a function, you will lose out, because you really need that critical thinking to stay ahead right now, today, right now. As they said, things are changing so fast. So you need the human brain and that thinking capacity to take it further down the road. But back to blueberries.
Oh, yes. I was going to say, with that comes the wherewithal to get people to work together.
Yes.
And that is.
But back to blueberries.
Yes.
So
I can see why you were involved in the report.
Yeah, I had to start it alone in 2007. No one wanted to do it. It's the same reason I just kick
and
off
you didn't
the
have
IPO.
ChatGPT then?
No. And I have asked ChatGPT questions about blueberry things, and I can tell you what it spits out is grossly inaccurate. So yeah.
Yes.
And it's not a hallucination. There's just a lot of bad data out there.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm an economist as well, and it made sense to, growing up in the industry with the nature of our business, we get to work with all the leaders around the world. So it was natural, because I had access to all the pioneers and the leaders everywhere, and go interview them and we didn't have industry organizations in most places back in the late 2000s, even the early 2010s and 10s. So we had to get useful sources of data. I cracked the joke earlier. This is the best bad data we have,
exactly.
But we followed the same methodology. But and I guess my family and our company benefits from the opportunity to serve the industry and build these wonderful relationships with people over the place and learn from them. And then when it's time to do a report, you can make a phone call and get some information. It just became too big and too overwhelming, and so we needed to professionalize it. And that's why Colin and his group came in 2019, and we've scaled this thing, and the quality has improved so much now that we have a team.
Fantastic. We actually have an appointment to chat to Colin as well, so that's going to be very interesting. Yeah. But I've two observations about blueberries, which I think you might find interesting, and just let me finish them both, and then I think you'll have a lot to say. Firstly, growing up in South Africa as a youngster, if we spoke about blueberries, it was something that was frozen.
In a muffin?
In a muffin, and it was definitely not fresh, and it was probably imported from North America. That's the first thing. Second thing is when blueberries first started arriving in South Africa, and this is relevant to Fall Creek, a lot of the people were incredibly, they were grower organizations, and they were so secretive. You asked them about blueberries, and they said, "No, we can't talk to you. No,
no, you can't come to my farm. You can't take your phone out.
You can't. No. And interestingly, when Fall Creek arrived and the varieties were open, it was really a big sea change in our country's industry. So those are two observations which, just being a South African person involved in the fruit industry, I thought I'd share with you and hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Well, so we were part of both those stories.
I'm sure you were.
In the 90s, our partner was Trevor McKenzie,
Yes.
who really is the founder of the South
Yes.
African industry. I just spent some time with Trevor today. To me, he's Uncle Trevor. And no one wanted to do blueberries in the 90s, early 2000s. And actually, that was the first time we or anyone had really experimented with a model around genetics that had any control on access. Because he was going to take on these massive investments and phenomenal risk to try to get this thing launched. I mean, remember, it's still very difficult. There's a huge delay on getting new varieties into South Africa.
Yes.
It's one of the most difficult quarantines in the industry, and it will set your industry back eventually.
Yes.
You will always be behind.
No, we can see it in all the things.
Yeah, it's in all the horticultural crops. It'll be one of the biggest strategic disadvantages to South Africa, especially since the quarantine process doesn't necessarily leverage the best science to address the actual concerns, the entrance of undesirable pathogens and pests. That is not a criticism of anyone. It's a declaration of how exciting the opportunity would be to apply some of the modern techniques to actually address the same concerns more efficiently with greater certainty that actually pathogens are not entering the country.
If I may interrupt you on that, where that came from was because we had all the sanctions against us. We had to establish these highly controlled board of standards and everything. So South Africa's got we've got the PPECB, which is the only control board for
The export of fruit.
Yes.
not just the export of fruit, anything that's perishable.
Perishable products.
So that's meat. They've even shipped placentas. They've got to be involved with that. Snails, anything that can rot, they're involved with. We've got the only thing in South Africa where every wine that's exported has got to go through a panel of tasters to see that it complies to what it says on the paper.
I want to work on that team. That sounds like fun.
You're going to taste a lot
where can I sign?
You're going to taste a lot of shit wines along the way. So
yes.
unfortunately,
Good to know we can loosen our language. We had the privilege of being part of that. What we never anticipated was how it would pick up over time. You know, the best of intentions, and those deals morphed over time. Other companies came in, but it is true that South Africa had, in terms of genetics access, industry norms, openness, had a period of, let's call it, longer arrested development in terms of its development and mindset, access to genetics, technology, those sorts of things. I think right now we're getting a bunch of credit for something we don't deserve. We're just finally got to the point that where we could come to South Africa and do what we do. And there are other companies on the genetic side and plant side doing this as well. I was just hanging out with my friend Michael Brinkman, CEO of Planasa, a competitor, great people. There's the IQ berries program has come in here, more open model. There's some of the Georgia material with
Sequoia and those guys?
well, that's our company, is Sequoia as
is
well.
that part
Yeah,
of
it
it?
belongs to Fall Creek. A little bit more of a closed program, actually. It's just more of a club-like model. I don't like to say that word because it has Apple connotations. But so I think I wouldn't say we're getting credit for something that we don't deserve. We're a participant in that. I think we might have made more noise.
It just happened.
Well, yeah, and we did come in and make a very substantial investment down
Yes.
here. We did build a very nice nursery on a heritage site that is spectacularly beautiful once you get through all the permitting process to build on a heritage site. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful place.
Yes.
It is Parle.
Stunning place.
Oh my goodness. It is easily one of the most beautiful fall creeks we've ever made. We make plants there too. But the offices and the
Yes.
trees, and it's
It is
just
stunning.
gorgeous. And I think the most exciting thing about coming here has been the quality of the people we've been able to bring on board and the quality of the people we get to do business with. We arrived, I think, in advance of this inflection point that's coming now for the industry. There, as I said in the presentation, we're about to have. You mind if I do my spiel?
Please
my
go.
shtick? Okay.
Please do.
So this is. I am excited about Southern Africa in blueberries for the industry. Today, the global fresh crop for last year is around 1.6 million metric tons. This year should be about 1.8, not ramping quite as much for a couple different reasons. That is still about 1/5 the size of the global fresh and frozen strawberry crop.
Okay.
So plenty of room from a comparative perspective. By 2030, if we get to around 2.4 million metric tons, that's certainly where the demand will be. My question is, can we scale to that point as an industry? And if you divide the year into thirds in terms of periods of supply, August to December, December to April, April to August, that August to December window, we talked a lot about Peru, right? And how unique its ascent as the primary source of exports and the largest fresh supplier outside of China has been. But Peru is only going to supply 500 to 600,000 of those 800,000 metric tons needed during that period. The only compelling alternative for that window is Southern Africa, South Africa and its neighboring countries. That would mean that Southern Africa would need to expand by a factor of 9, almost 10.
And quickly.
And quickly. It's not going to happen. It's hard to scale blueberries. It's expensive.
Yes.
But the scale and scope of the opportunity is incredible. And also Southern Africa just has better flavor. And the firmness is the same place as the Peruvian product or the Mexican or the Moroccan product, but it's really good fruit. There's a lot of room for it. On top of it, variable costs in the other cost-competitive countries are increasing faster than they are in Southern Africa. So I predict that somewhere between 2028 and 2033, if we keep dialing in yields, it'll be highly yield dependent, but if we can keep dialing in yield, the quality is going to be there, especially with all the new sources of new genetics from various wonderful breeding programs. Highly likely that Southern Africa will have the highest quality and the lowest unit cost.
Worldwide.
Worldwide. That is completely fathomable. And that is exciting because that's going to create oceans of jobs, salaried positions, seasonal work. It will have profound economic development in the area, and it's going to put it on the map. And I think it's going to be a real contribution to the global crop because the fruit's going to be good. And you guys have incredible logistical advantages. I mean, we're on the cusp of market access for South Africa to China.
Yes.
Yes.
It's very exciting. And as you were saying, as you were saying that the market needs this, South Africa needs this.
Yep.
It's quite virtuous, right? It's wonderful.
Need it because the unemployment rate, and there are so many people desperate for work. And one of the charts you put up, South Africa, the labor is the one place where labor was available.
Yeah.
And so if our industry grows, there'll be a groundswell of growth for people all the way down to the bottom, to from the picker all the way through to the exporter, the grower, everybody. And our country desperately needs foreign capital. So
this is the issue.
It works with everything.
This is my concern, and one of the reasons I'm hammering this here and every opportunity I get. So recognizing the rate of growth of the industry from a new planting perspective and replanting perspective varies year to year. Generally, to add the growth on an annual basis in terms of capital expenditures, farm creation, pack houses, that sort of thing, globally requires the deployment of between 6 and 8 billion US dollars a year in CapEx alone. A disproportionate amount of that capital and institutional capital is flowing into select geographies that have an established norm of this higher internal rate of return and faster ROI. And it's coming at the, this is not proper English, it is currently neglecting two types of opportunities. One, countries like Southern Africa, which actually have the same internal rate of return, and from a financial modeling perspective and ROI in terms of speed at which you enter production and scale. But there's some apprehension. Although, I mean, Peru is not an easy place, guys. Let me tell you, we got a business there. It's not an easy place. Neither is Mexico or Morocco, for that matter, or southwestern China. But it hasn't moved in as quickly. But some of that is also because there's less corporate farming. A lot of family companies, but a lot of corporate farming that you find in these other places, they're still family companies. They've just professionalized.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so there's going to be a professionalization of the industry that comes with this that may encounter some resistance as well for this to work. The other side of the equation, which South Africa can also touch and play a role in, is the scaling of the new genetics in the mid and high chill category for the summer production in the two hemispheres. Because there's breakthroughs in high chill genetics that is going to result in a next level of fruit quality and consumer experience. And I would expect 10 to 20% of South Africa's supply within 5 years to be in mid and high chill as well. You have limited regions where you can do it, but there
Yes.
are places you can.
Yes.
The apple and the pear regions.
There are.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I've got a good couple of questions on this.
Go, Dewald.
But it's exciting, right? It's really
Super
exciting.
exciting.
Yes, that's what's prompting all the questions. So, okay, let's start at the negative part.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go dark.
South Africa has been in the news for quite a number of unfavorable situations in our country, particularly to international investors due to policy, our government policies on our side. You're from a big international company that is
I don't like to
investing.
think of us as that big. We're a medium enterprise. Yeah.
Some of us is big. So you've invested in,
Yes.
like you just said, other volatile.
More volatile places than this.
Okay.
More volatile
Yes.
places than this. So, firstly, do you think those kind of policies and things will have an effect on future investments? Because, like you said, there's a potential $9 billion that needs place to be invested.
Yes.
So
It's looking for a home.
it's looking for a home.
It's looking for partners, though. So
Okay.
it requires a different profile of approach as well. So it's institutional capital. There's structure. There's governance. There's other things that come with that. And so that will be a critical part of it. One of the pushes we're making right now, as are others, is to increase the awareness of the opportunity among the well-capitalized international players in our industry to come in, partner with local operators, or go in solo and keep developing this industry. And that's going to build that confidence. I think a lot of this is just awareness
Yes.
of the opportunity, because I don't see any evidence as an international investor. I don't see any evidence that there is anything harder here for foreign direct investment than some of the other places that are receiving a lot of this capital. It's just not on the map yet. Well, that's why we're here and having an IBO. Honestly, I don't see big hangups. Zimbabwe's tough.
Yes.
Zimbabwe is tough, but even there, it's navigable. Even there, it's navigable. You know, the world is, as we've discussed here in general, the world is turning a little more inward in some ways, where there's some things that are feeling very 1930s at times for all of us, I believe. And as a student of history, that makes me nervous. But
Yes.
yes,
When you mentioned the 1930s.
yes. For those, there's a lot of people younger than me who don't know what that means, unfortunately. But that being said, we don't have to go that way.
No.
And the opportunity is real. I don't think there's huge structural issues. They're all manageable, and they can be addressed over the course of time and improved. They can be addressed over the course of time and improved. I think this will come for the local industry in South Africa and Southern Africa. It will require an openness in the development of acumen, because it's a skill set to work with institutional capital. It's a different skill set. It's certainly different than farming,
Absolutely.
you know.
I think what you're saying is extremely exciting, and the fact that we are having this this event in Cape Town has brought people from 36 countries to here to see, and hopefully they will venture beyond just being at the summit. They'll go to the farms, they'll experience the country, and let's hope. As you say, it wasn't on the map until recently, but maybe the things will change now.
We are here, and we are going to make it happen to the best of our ability. That's the
Amen.
other thing. We are deeply committed to being a change agent for this and working with everyone who's committed to it as well, to supporting it. We are big believers.
Wow.
And guys,
Great.
it's coming.
Great, we are excited and we look forward to it. And,
No, because the South Africa's got land to look. We all look at where the stuff in Peru's grown. It's in the desert. We've got
Oh, it's tough areas, guys.
we've got desert area. We've technically got water. If they can put a pipeline from the Orange River down into
Yes.
the Makwaland, you can grow anything there, because nothing has ever grown there. So the soil is still fertile. As an example.
with the finance, if the finance is available, it's amazing what you can achieve.
Interest rates are high. Similar to Mexico, your interest rates are actually not quite as onerous as Mexico's right now, and so it does lend itself more to like investor capital and equity capital. It is true that Peru has done a good job of, as wild and woolly as things can get politically in Peru, they have done a good job of being a pretty consistent place for institutional capital, and they also had a sizable horticulture industry and other crops that was established, and they had also industries like a mining and fisheries industry that had some established norms around it as well.
So does South Africa.
It does, but it had gone quite well for foreign investors, maybe a little better in some ways than foreign investors than perhaps South Africa. Those are old stories at this point. But I often rack my brain, ask the same question: why? Why is there so much apprehension? And I think that's waning, but it did exist, but it doesn't need to continue.
Yes.
Pleased to hear that your opinion is that it's waning. We think so, but when you're inside a country, you're never too sure. It's good to hear comment from outside.
Exactly. It is when you're stuck in your own country, you tend to look at the wall in front of you.
Yes.
You don't see what the people on the other side of the wall see of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just flew back from Canada visiting my daughter and heard about wild blueberries. And that's something that I've never heard about before, East Coast Canada. And arriving in Cape Town with a plane load full of people flying in from the United States, the excitement of touching down in Cape Town was palpable. You could see how excited people were to get off the plane in Cape Town. Yeah. And we've always just thought of ourselves a little bit as a Sleepy Hollow, but we are becoming a world destination. So, as I said earlier,
it's a magical place.
It is a beautiful place. It's and people love visiting here. And so that's already a start. So if the people that are here can venture out and see, and maybe, as you say, we're going to make it happen.
Yeah. There are two other things on a very practical level that I think are going to really help drive a shift in mindset within the blueberry industry. One is, Peru does have El Nino events, and we just experienced one in 2023, and it had a real impact on availability, and it reminded retailers that you always need to have diversified portfolios and your sources of supply, as well as if you're a large growing marketing organization, you do need a risk-adjusted portfolio from a geography and product type perspective. The other is China market access. That ride from South America, it's easy to forget how much bigger the Pacific Ocean is than the Atlantic.
The Indian Ocean.
The boat ride from Casablanca to Philadelphia can be as short as 9 days. The fast boats from Chancay in Peru to Shanghai take more than 20 days.
Yeah.
And usually the traditional boats, 40.
Okay.
40 days. You guys have some real logistical advantages here, and China's market pays for flavor and quality, and you have superior flavor. It's just, that is going to be an absolute boon, because it is true, I have had back and forth arguments with partners, customers who have big plans, have grown a lot, and have said, yeah, but I don't have to because I have Peru. Well, at a certain point, I think they have to.
Cort, tell us about flavor.
Yeah.
You've mentioned it in passing twice, that South Africa has excellent flavor. Explain that. How it's determined, and why do we have excellent flavor?
Yeah. So physiologically, it's about carbohydrates moving through a plant. It's, in the simplest of terms, cool nights, warm days make for happier people, happier animals, and happier plants.
Okay.
But in a really intense, active growing evergreen environment where the plant is always active and growing, like growing leaves or growing plant, that's pulling carbohydrates into that vegetative growth. And so in a place like Peru in particular, it's just harder to get the same level of bricks relative to acidity, sugar relative to acidity, and also
because there's such a long growing window.
Because the plant remains actively growing during harvest, and so there's competition between the vegetative growth. And I don't know how deep you guys want to get into this, but I can go real deep on this one if you want to.
I think you've answered the question, and you've mentioned that could be a competitive advantage for the fruit from South Africa,
especially into China, because what the Chinese market wants is sweet. Now, you get to the Germans or a lot of the East Coast Americans or Canadians, they're looking for the sugar-acid balance. There's different preferences for different flavor profiles. So I guess what I'm getting at is general shelf life and quality, and just this sugar-acid balance for most people. There's kind of a sweet spot, so to speak, that works for everybody. And if you have high bricks and a decent level of acidity, you have a longer shelf life
Yeah.
and better flavor. And then you get into individual varieties, the horticultural management. There's different aromas. There's different organoleptic compounds, a word I always like to say that I don't understand. And
Sounds
and then
good.
volatile. It makes me sound smart. There's a lot of people that think like that I'm a scientist, right? And I'm a total fake scientist. I just play one on television because I've learned all these fancy words because I have a bunch of scientists that report to me, right? So I have to learn to know what they're saying. But it's like it's like studying theology and taking a course on conceptual physics, right? You know, I'm a total fraud, but I survive the best I can.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
But I love that you mentioned flavor, because you know you can make a fruit look as fantastic as it likes, but it's got to work on the tongue.
It's one of the risks. It's one of the risks we run right now. Actually, we talked a lot about this premiumization category. There's so much demand for product in this premium category that at times because oftentimes it's starting with this sizing component. So as retailers demand to have these new SKUs, these new products that are highly impacted by the visual component that is size, but also firmness and flavor. As they try to extend the availability of that category, they're asking their suppliers to get creative, and they're getting the size, but they're not getting the firmness or the flavor components. And then it's actually damaging that very category that they're trying to create. And so it is about texture. It is about flavor. I mean, think about this. We've all had a good strawberry before, right? Like that spectacular strawberry. Was it firm or soft?
Yes, more soft.
Right. And it was quite sweet, right?
Yeah.
Those attributes annihilate shelf life.
Yes.
Exactly. I was about to say, when a strawberry is that perfect, it's the difference in it growing beard in the fridge is 2 days.
Whereas a blueberry with extremely high firmness, high sugar and acidity has a really long shelf life, and it's what consumers want. So it's one of the few crops, one of the few fruit products where the thing that improves shelf life and commercial economic attributes is exactly what consumers are looking for. Our interests are actually aligned. Whereas in strawberries, no knock on strawberries, I love strawberries, to be able to deliver something that arrives, we have to ship a piece of cardboard that doesn't taste like a strawberry should taste. Now that is a virtuous cycle as well.
Very, very interesting. I think we could chat for hours, but I do think you wanted to
Just quickly before we finish this off. So that segment that's there, how much of Fall Creek's time and effort is going into breed new varieties that fall into that premium sector versus a volume-based sector?
So we will not release varieties going forward that do not have the firmness and flavor characteristics that align with future preference of consumers, period. We have various channels. We have different customers. We serve growers. We serve grower packers. We serve grower marketers. We serve vertically integrated growing marketing organizations. We serve virtually integrated growing marketing organizations. They have different needs in the market. They have different needs on the farm. And so in the simplest of terms, we do target in our program genotypes or varieties that will deliver on that, what is today being called the premium segment. We are focused on developing varieties and our friends in the genetics. I hate the word competitor because I don't view them as competitors. They're friends and they're partners on a lot of things. On other categories that are coming, that will be critical. And then there's also a big world out there of growers who don't have a strong connection to the reality of the market. They're not talking to retailers every day, but they need yield. They need quality. There's three things that affect a grower's profitability. Simplest of terms: yield, harvest cost, and price.
Yes.
Yield is highly determined by the horticulture, the plant quality you start with, and the genetics you're growing. Harvest cost, highly influenced by the management, the genetics, and the technology you're using to harvest. And thirdly, price is highly determined by your product quality, the category you're targeting, and your go-to-market strategy. Now, if you're just a grower, you don't have a lot that you can do to affect that. But if you start with a good product that's aligned with a go-to-market strategy, you can do that. So we don't want to release anything that doesn't empower a world with better blueberries. That's our mission. But we do have different targets for different things. We do not, the premium category right now is a lot of this like 20 to 24 mil stuff. Not all consumers want to eat blueberries the size of plums, right? That is not the whole space. So for example, we have some new high chill varieties that have 16 to 18 mil berries, that is machine harvestable, that has a 120-day shelf life, that is just a mechanized machine, and that is not going to go in that premium category. It's going to be a super low unit cost, high output, long shelf life, easy to eat, going to go in a 1 or 2 kilo pack in 5 years at the retailer. And families that historically don't buy as many blueberries are going to buy that baby at a good price, and the grower's still going to make money, and they're going to eat blueberries all day long. They're going to eat blueberries all the time because they're in there, so we're going to increase share of stomach. Because you got to think about, not even categories, you got to think about occasions, purchasing power, lifestyle. Put yourself in the shoes of the people around the world.
Yep.
What do they want? They want different things at different times, but we need to have genetics that align with that. And we have our part, and others have their part.
Wow.
It's
Never bored, huh? Never bored.
Well, we could
that's
we
the
could
best
we
thing.
could keep chatting to you for a long time, but I do think it's we need to do the wrap.
Yes, I think I'm supposed to be
It's-
doing
it's
something
been-
downstairs. Yeah.
One last question I'd like to ask you, and then he'll ask you the
I've got a
closing
very good one.
the closing question. A difficult one because you've said a lot already. Is there any particular message that you would leave for South African and global audiences?
For the South African and Southern African industry, the opportunity is very real. You're at an inflection point. Now is a great time to identify your competitive advantages, prove your model that is around the right product, knowing the market you're going to serve. The support and the capital is here and coming. Now is the time, not to go do it all, but to get going and think about it in increments of a 5-year outcome and a revolving 36-month plan. That is my local advice. I give that advice anywhere, but now is the time to really look at this. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? Because it takes 3 to 4 years to get somewhere, because it takes time. So if you have a 5-year outcome, any outcome you're going to achieve in 5 years is work you do in the next 28 months.
Indeed. Well, thank you for that.
And then globally, pay attention to Southern Africa, and this thing's going to grow. I'm not worried about demand. I'm worried about giving consumers what they want, and I'm worried about our industry's ability to scale while confronting the challenges we do have in land, water, labor, talent, capital, trade issues, politics, geopolitics. We have things to do, the opportunity's there, but we're going to do it better together.
Sure.
Incredible. We have a closing tradition, and that is that somebody from one of the previous podcasts leaves a question, a random question for the next person.
And this one will fit in very nicely with you. What is the best wisdom you have received from a family member?
Oh, that's easy. Was that did they know it was going to be me?
No.
Oh,
No, not at all.
all right. Yeah, so my question to the next person can't be, what's your favorite color?
I think you can.
Oh, very easy.
We'll chat to you about that
No.
afterwards.
So my father is a scientist, and but he is a very chatty person. But he imparted upon me, I'll never forget it. I was with him, I was in university and abroad, and had gone down to Spain to meet him at visiting a genetics company, some customers we were with down in Seville, where I ended up living years later and building our operations there. And I said, Dad, how do you do this? How do you make all these relationships and get all this stuff done? What's your secret? He said, I'll tell you what my sister taught me, because my aunt, who passed away, trained business people and salespeople in managing relationships. Okay. And he said, it's very simple. 3 rules that I try to follow and always fail at. Number 1, you never learn anything when you're talking.
Okay.
From the guy who talks too much, right? Number 2, when you're with another person and you want to have a comfortable conversation, pay attention to their personality and style and mirror it to the best of your ability. To show respect. It's not a manipulation. It's to show respect. And number 3, don't forget, people think with their head, but they decide with their heart. Not bad, right? My dad's a wizard. He's good.
It's very good.
Now, I don't know how to beat that question for the next person, even though I know it's not a competition. But they're obviously someone from this industry.
I've randomly asked these questions.
You
we
do?
we won't keep them specific to anybody that's following you. But Cort, it's been incredible. I wish we had more time to chat, but thank you so much for joining us. It's been
My pleasure.
It's been an inspiration, and I do hope that your very positive message gets out there to Southern African blueberry
And we'll
growers.
try our best to get it out
And we
there.
will get it out there for you.
Awesome. Well, we're here. You know where to find us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.